good evening, everyone. Today, in our Candid conversations, I am going to have a very interesting conversation with the queen of Anglo-Indian cuisine, as I call her, as she's known. She's like an older sister. She and I share very, very special bondings. And Bridget and I we go back a very, very long time. We've done a couple of events together. We share common interests, and she's a wonderful person. There's so much to learn from her. And Bridget is joining us. And here, hi Bridget.
How are you?
Sorry, I'm absolutely fine. I'm rocking. Sorry, apologies. I'm living in a time lapse right now because I was online till late last night. Morning also there was a webinar, and I was under the impression that today is the 12th. So I was, no, today is the 11th. And I thought you and I were supposed to go live tomorrow. However, it's okay. I'm glad you reminded me, and I'm so happy to see you. What a pleasure. You look good. You look fine. You look as gorgeous as ever and as smiling as ever.
The same to you. The same to you. And
So
thank you for inviting me to talk to you.
No, Bridget, it's always such a pleasure to be with you, to talk to you. You know, what has happened is the authentic Anglo-Indian cuisine is not existing anymore as it used to be earlier because there's a lot of fusion coming in. And the more the fusion is coming out, the more chaos it's adding to our cuisine and our culinary culture.
Exactly.
So what is your take?
What should I say? Everything that you have said is right. Because this particular cuisine came into existence so many hundred years ago, and it was the result of experimentation and innovation, and it came to a certain standard of recipes that was followed pan-India. But then with the British going out of India and the older generation passing on, with more regional influences coming into the cuisine, people want to, experiment more and more with an experimental cuisine. And so that very authenticity of a community is getting lost.
Yeah, but don't you also realize that there is a time has come where a lot of Anglo-Indian families have migrated to European countries and countries like Australia and other places, and there are very few who are left behind to continue the old world legacy. Because a lot of these youngsters do not carry that passion with them, which would have been under normal circumstances, would have been loved by everyone. You have been one of the stalwarts, and you authored more than 10 books, which have been all bestsellers, and especially the book that you wrote in 2012, which won the Gourmand Award, and it's called the Oscar for writing primarily. You've done some fantastic work. Tell me, how did your culinary journey start from the beginning? Because you grew up in Kolar Goldfields and otherwise, and so tell me, how did your culinary journey start?
Basically, as you know, I grew up in Kolar Goldfields, which was known as Little England in the olden days because of its Anglo-Indian and British population. Since the company was owned by a British company called John Taylor and Sons. But in 1947, when India got independence, many Anglo-Indians and Europeans started leaving KGF and migrating abroad. So in 1956, finally the gold mines were nationalized and the government took over. And of course, the whole social landscape of KGF changed. But till then, Ashish, and even till the early 70s, it was heaven on earth. Our whole lives were influenced by British culture. And there was no dearth of British products in Kolar Goldfields. Because we had the English warehouse, and we had Spencer's, and we had Creswell's company, which brought in stuff by ship from England. You should have seen the ladies dresses, all from J.C. Penney. And there was nothing that, that we didn't lack. But then, as I said, after 1956, the whole landscape changed and we became more, what should I say, local oriented. But then it was such a glorious time because we were growing up post the colonial era and just the emerging India, the new emerging India. So it was an awesome time to be a child. But then after my degree in KGF, I came to Bangalore to do my B.Ed, and I met my husband during my college days, and I stayed back in Bangalore and we got married. Till then, I didn't know how to cook.
You didn't know how to cook?
No. And because we had so many, good servants in KGF who turned out the best of everything. Of course, my mother was there to supervise and do the finishing touches. But the actual prep work was done by all these people, our helpers. And, it was my husband actually who taught me how to strain rice in the first days of our marriage.
Really?
But then there was, because he lived with his father.
So now you will agree. Now you will agree on one thing. I don't want to sound chauvinistic, but men are the best tailors in the world, and men are also the best cooks.
Yeah, he was very proud of his mutton curry and other things that he used to make, his tomato mutton. Anyway, from there it was a stepping stone for me, and I just took to cooking like a duck takes to water, and I loved it. But it was just a fusion in our home because my husband was Telugu, so I cooked some Naidu dishes also, Andhra dishes as well as Anglo-Indian dishes. So it was every day it was like a fusion meal in our home. But then my daughter went to England to study in the year 2000, and I wrote a recipe book for her of all our easy recipes. And that book, the recipe book, was photocopied by her friends from different countries and taken all over the world. So then my daughter suggested that I could put these recipes in a book and try to get it published. And that's what I did. I sent a manuscript of around 600 recipes to so many publishers in Delhi because there were no other publishers anywhere else. They were all in Ansari Road in New Delhi.
Yes.
And of course, many of them rejected it, saying that they didn't even know there was a community like an Anglo-Indian community in existence, and that we had our own, for them it was like an ordinary Indian dish or cuisine. But they didn't know that even though it was Indian, it had our own special taste because we are very judicious with our spices and flavors, and it's a completely different taste from an ordinary Indian curry or Indian.
So how did your R&D of Anglo-Indian cuisine started? Because according to what I feel.
Yeah, because that was what I was used to from the beginning, from childhood. I had many handwritten recipes of my mother's. I don't know whether you will be able to see, but you see these are very old books which are now falling apart. The pages.
I will be surprised because my mom, I also have some of my mother's stuff, and and with handwritten recipes.
Many recipes like this, which are all falling apart. Then this used to be my Bible. This book was published in the year 1802, and my grandmother gave this to my mother, and then it was passed on to me. But you could see that it is so very old. I'm scared even to turn the pages. And it was published. This was the third publication was in February 1901. Previous to that,
fantastic.
1874. And this was
amazing.
published through Higginbotham's in Madras. And then I have this, Mrs. Beaton's All About Cookery. Very, 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 very old.
I can see that. These are all treasure troves that you have.
Yeah, and then there's this The Joy of Cooking, which were sort of my Bibles. I sort of zeroed in on Anglo-Indian cuisine because I realized that there were no recipe books out on Anglo-Indian cuisine. It was only what every family had, what was passed down, and people would write down recipes. You'd see in the old recipes they didn't give any quantities. It was always some faltu measurements that they would give, a pinch of this or a dash of that, or something that didn't make any sense. So you know what it was? I took voluntary retirement from Canada Bank. Anyway, I started life as a teacher, I told you.
Yes.
I came to do my BEd in Bangalore, and I worked for just 1 year as a teacher. Just then emergency was lifted and all the banks were recruiting staff, and I was just getting a salary of 350 rupees in the school. So Canada Bank offered 450. So I cleared the entrance exam and got on in Canada Bank. So I worked there for 25 years as a banker, and then took voluntary retirement in the year 2001. Then, being jobless, you search for something to do because that routine is, you're used to a routine. And it's nice to stay at home, but then you get bored. So these recipe books, sort of called me and said, why don't you try us out? The old...
and now you've authored 10 books, and they're all bestsellers. It's fabulous, Bridget.
Yeah, that's what I did then,
There's one thing that intrigues me. When we talk of the Anglo-Indian cuisine, you see, I've seen a huge variety in Anglo-Indian food. The Anglo-Indian cuisine in Kolkata differs from the Anglo-Indian cuisine in Chennai. The Anglo-Indian cuisine is
it's pan-India.
And also the Anglo-Indian food in the tea garden. Is it because of the regional location of the Anglo-Indian community? Where food flavors change because of the region, and
yes, exactly.
subsequently,
as I said, regional influences played a great part. Availability of local ingredients, and some dishes are. Most of the dishes are pan-India, but as I said, there would be some regional or local ingredient that would be added to it. Like, for instance, in Calcutta, they cook with mustard oil. But down south, we used to cook with groundnut oil. And in Kerala, it was coconut oil. Then down south, we had a lot of curry leaf and coconut in our dishes.
Because I know of some Anglo-Indian families who are based out of Shimla and Nainital and places like that. And they were there for years and years and settled for a very long time. They were very much Pakka Bara Sahib. Their attitude was also like that.
Yes,
their behavior was also like that. Even places like
Dores,
Shillong or even Darjeeling and places like that. Because they had either retired from the army or the railways, because the railways had always a very strong, sizable Anglo-Indian population. I remember my early childhood when my uncle was in railways. I used to go to this place in Hyderabad, in a place called Lalaguda, which was the railway colony, next to the railway colony. There used to be a place which has a sizable population of a lot of Anglo-Indian railway drivers, and others, because they were specialists in driving engines.
Exactly. Yes.
And the place was called Little England. I happened to be there during one Christmas time. I was taken to one of the church services because it was wonderful. It was amazing, and we would, especially when they had the institute, which is always railway colonies always has an institute for the officers or junior officers institutes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There would be series of Christmas carol singing and stuff like that, and they used to make stuff like the pulled pork, and salted meat and
salted meat, pulled pork, ding ding.
And wine. It was fantastic.
Wine. Homemade wine. Yes.
Yes. I think that was a great culture.
Yes, but sadly now, many of them have left India, gone away.
But you have been going to involved with all the top 5-star hotel chains. You've done workshops with the Marriott. You've done workshops with the Oberois on a regular basis. You've been training their chefs. Because I think some of the hotels, especially the Oberois, still to a large extent specializes and is known for its expertise in continental cuisine. They always had an upper hand. While the ITC had
the Taj group.
Also the Taj. While the ITCs always had an upper hand in traditional Indian cuisine, especially Mughlai and its biryani, the Oberois had never faltered when it came to their Anglo-Indian cuisine.
Yes.
And some of the desserts, because I remember some of the old tea garden bungalows, still very British. And I am actually a very nice cookbook, which I got from one of the old tea garden bungalows. And that tea garden bungalow has this cookbook, which is almost 100 years old, like you have. And you know me, I love collecting old books.
I know. Yeah.
Self just books, and a lot of them is only food and rare manuscripts that are kept. I think you are doing human service to our Indian community and also the Anglo-Indian community.
It's just a hobby, Ashish, that turned into a passion for me, and I think it's all God's grace as well, because it was a niche area when I started. This journey took from the year 2000 to today. So I've gone through a long journey, and it wasn't easy getting to where I am today. And I went step by step. So it was a tremendous journey, and I've made, as I said, like you, I've made so many friends and met so many wonderful people on this journey. And you spoke about the tea gardens. Did you know that their snacks were called Sicuns, SICUNS? Because it was a misinterpretation by the boys, the mob cooks who used to work in the tea
I will not dispute that. Because even the Astis, they can't pronounce the word S.
It was the second.
They can't pronounce the word. So even if they'll ask you, yes.
The second one became a Sicun.
Yeah. So even if you ask a normal Assamese in terms of the dialect, what is there? So a normal guy would say, "Sa, silly chicken." He will not even say "sir." He will not say chili chicken. He will say "Sa, silly chicken." Ajimoye, silly chicken banayas. That I've made chili chicken today. And that's what they would say.
So
I still recollect.
It evolved from the word, the second one, I believe.
Yes.
Because that was the second tea.
Yes.
That was the thing. So it's quite interesting, the way this whole cuisine evolved.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And I also remember, Bridget, when you and I were spending some beautiful moments at Kursiong, at Cookery place, and we were doing a series of workshops. We had this group of British travelers who had come in, and they were the railway buffs. And you and I sat down, worked on it, and we recreated completely the whole railway menu, which was given to them during the Second World War time. And also, absolutely, they loved it. They went berserk, and the pineapple pudding upside down, the caramels and the meatballs, but they just adored it because you brought it with perfect flavors, and it was absolutely fantastic.
And steamed ginger pudding, which no one makes.
It was fabulous. Yes, I mean, it's just awesome. Another thing, remember, when we had the army generals over, remember, we sat down, we recreated an army camp of what the officers would be served during the Second World War, right? It was just fantastic. And I mean, the generals themselves were zapped. They couldn't imagine that we could recreate, a complete menu for them, which was actually showcasing history for them. It was unbelievable. So I think there are lots of things that our country still has. There's plenty of legacies which is still left behind. And it's people like you, thanks to people like you, who are working and striving hard towards conserving a rich tradition and culture, because your community has played a very, very vital role in managing middle-level governance of India.
They were the cogs in the wheel. They were the cogs in the wheel.
So they were able to handle things in the right perspective, and of course there was a lot of British influence, but they were the people who followed the middle path. So they had the best of traditional India and the best of British India.
Yes.
They were able to create a beautiful harmony, between the two. And as the harmony came, their cuisine also evolved, region to region, place to place. I'm just thinking of the mulligatawny soup, which is globally, I think a lot of Anglo-Indian dishes which were Indianized to some extent and set up and evolved by the British, today is the same very British flavor.
Yes, but the same mulligatawny soup, it evolved into a breastbone pepper water, what we make in Anglo-Indian homes, where we use the soft pressed bones to make a lovely Kolkata.
So which is your favorite dish that you love to cook? Which is your favorite dish that you love to cook, Bridget? I know you cook everything and anything, but which is your favorite dish that you love?
But actually, to tell you very frankly, I just love a pepper chicken. Just a simple pepper chicken, because that's the thing with, we don't add any extra flavors to it apart from the pepper, and it brings out the taste of the chicken. So I just love a pepper chicken or a pepper chicken roast. And mashed potato and green peas, you go to culinary heaven.
But you make the best shepherd pie in the world, let me tell you that. I've eaten shepherd pie everywhere, but nobody can beat Bridget White-Kumar shepherd pie.
Oh, thank you, Ashish.
Anybody who eats her must try her food. Her meatball curry, her yellow meatball curry, is to die for. And then she does another great number, which also I love very much, is her Anglo-sized version of the saffron rice, which she does, which is absolutely fantastic. And her caramel, and the coconut, and her caramel pudding, by far the best. The Anglo-Indians have been non-vegetarians, because it's part of the culture.
We are carnivores, Yes.
But you must be having certain vegetarian dishes which are your all-time favorites in Anglo-Indian cuisine.
Yes. Actually, we have a lot of vegetarian dishes as well. Like every day, you have to have a vegetarian side dish, like a fugad. And the fugad is a legacy of the Portuguese to us, because even the Goans have the same thing. It's just a stir-fried side dish, but it must be on the table along with your meat items. And then in the afternoons, it was rice and curry, and the meat was always cooked with the vegetable in it, like meat and lady's finger. And I don't know, we used to call it as bandikoi in the olden days because of the pronunciation of the South Indian bendekai. So it became bandikoi. And drumstick and meat. Meat and potatoes are very famous.
Yes, it's a standard dish. But interestingly, in central UP and parts, there are especially among the sizable Muslim populations. Of course, style of cooking is comparatively different, but strange that in most places that I've seen, the blending of vegetables with meat is also a stew in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
Whether you go to Kerala or you go to any part of the world or you go to Irish stew or that stew, there will be always an element of vegetable.
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Meat and vegetable, yes. And the stew is, brown stew, Anglo-Indian brown stew is amazing. And we also add dumplings sometimes.
Yes, we do. Yes. Yes. In fact, dumplings are very, very popular right from Eastern Europe, whether it's was Russia and Romania and places like that. Very popular. It came from there. Southeast Asia dumplings have always been popular. China, they've been popular.
Yeah.
Myanmar, parts of Myanmar, they've been popular. Vietnam, they've been popular. How food evolved?
Because a stew would be just a one pot meal, right? And your dumplings would take care of your carbs.
I think so, because that's what it is. Because it has the protein, it has the carbs, and then it has the fiber because of vegetables. I think. So that one pot meal would always be a very holistic meal, which would have the best of everything.
Yeah.
And that is how I think things would work around, for basic flavors to be added for us to enjoy a lot of food, Do you have any, your daughter's in Singapore?
Yeah. She's watching now. I saw her coming on. And my son-in-law.
I hope she's working towards carrying your legacy forward, because it would be a wonderful thing.
She's a very good cook herself.
Really? Then I think she should continue to carry your legacy to the best of her ability, because it should continue. You start from your mother, your daughter should start from you, and it should continue so that the complete culinary journey of Anglo-Indian cuisine is sustained through your family. Because your books are wonderful, and obviously I always speak of two things. That if I was to follow you, Bridget, I will not be able to make the same kind of food like you do, no matter what. Why?
I guess.
It's only very natural. Either it will be horrible or it will be better. It cannot be the same.
Yes, because that's what I say. Each one cooks in a different
way. Exactly. That's what I would tell my friends, that look, my mother, what she could cook, I cannot cook. I may innovate, it may taste different and maybe better to some, but I cannot do what exactly she does, or it will be horrible, it will be the worst. So I think every has his or her own speciality, and it is only because of their hands and their mind and the sense of flavor that they can bring in the exact flavors to the traditional cuisine, which is extremely necessary. So, on that note, it's been a wonderful chat with you, Bridget, and I would love to talk to you again and again. The moment lockdown opens, we hope to see you in Bangalore, or for you to have us over, and for us to have you over, or for that matter, we can all meet at the culinary school, which is going to open in the next couple of months, because now things are getting better. It's your working thing. So friends, all of you who are watching, thank you for watching Bridget and me. With Bridget, it's always a pleasure. It's one of the greatest joys is there when I talk to her on food and so many things.
And thank you, Ashish. Thank you so much.
Always do audio books from Bridget, because you will not regret it. Let me assure you that what she writes is simple, easy, and you will definitely do a fabulous. Thank you all. Stay safe. Bless you all, and God bless you. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you for being with us. Bye for now. Hope to
see you again. And love to you and Priscilla.
Much love to you. God bless you. Thank you. Bye.